Tiffany, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yep. Yep. Good. All right.
Everybody want to turn on their mics? Ready. Why don't we call this meeting to order? Do you want to do the roll call or do you want me to do it?
Yep, I'll do it.
All right.
Okay. Tiffany?
Here.
Okay, Chris?
Present?
Anna?
Here.
Frank?
Here.
Kathy?
Here.
All right, everyone is here.
All righty. Why don't we do a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge of
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
All righty. I'd like to make a motion that we approve the current agenda. Can I get a second for that?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That shall pass. I see that we do not have a public here, so we will not have any comments on the agenda items at this point. In which case, I'm going to make a motion that we approve the minutes from the September 9th meeting. I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Which takes us to section 7, new business. Let us start with 7.1, a discussion and possible action of the historical. I'm sorry, I read that wrong. A discussion of possible action on the Historic Resource 2 application process, problems, possible modifications, and clarification. You want to speak on that, Kathy?
Yeah. Feel free to chime in if you have any input into this. So I've been reviewing the process that we go through with the applications, which up to this time I've primarily done, or I visited homeowners to get their signature. What I'm finding out is that it's a fairly large amount of time taken up because I have to repeat, they're not home or they hide. Not because they don't want to, but because some of the people who live in these homes are not very social and not comfortable at probably answering their door. So that brings up several questions that need to be addressed as far as the application process itself. I never tell anyone when I'm doing this that it's not required the homeowner sign these. Our ordinance does not state that the homeowner has to sign the application. There's 3 choices: the supervisor, the commission member, or the homeowner. It's easier usually because at this point, our planning commission basically will not, there's no point in me presenting a application to the planning commission if the homeowner doesn't sign it. So several questions come up basically, either we have to identify that at the end with supervisors who do vote, they're the ultimate answer. What is the criteria you're going to use to make a determination about a historic home? Is it the historic criteria, or is it going to be purely, did the homeowner agree, or the property owner? And I will say property owner because most likely it's not a homeowner, but it can be. Yes.
I think we've shown that we can do it either way. It's just a lot easier if we have the homeowner signature.
Of all the ones that were done, how many were solely done by you?
Well, they're all done by me.
So without you doing these, we wouldn't have any.
Right.
So the amount of time and dedication that you've taken to do this, like, is over and above what probably most people would have done in a commission aspect. So it's not sustainable that this is done long-term, because how, your fantastic effort is amazing, but it's, how can we make this easier on the homeowners, the process, and to enable you to have more participation and cooperation is
Well, yes, there's
what we're
several,
trying to figure
yes.
out.
The initial way that I did it was that I filled them out and
Yeah.
then we notified. So you'll see you have that letter.
Yeah,
And this is the letter that will go out, and in it, and it is a very nice letter, so, but it doesn't address the people that perhaps did not file it and are for this, just getting this first time in the mail and saying, woo, what does that mean? Yeah, so that's why I try to go visit with them, and explain it to them. Now, I will also add that I spend quite a bit of time explaining it, only to be, yes, leave it with me and I'll get back to you, which I have to then return back because that doesn't happen. And there's many reasons for that, and I understand them, that some people are fearful, they're ready to sell. So that is usually the hesitation. They're fearful that it's going to impede their ability to sell or the price they want to get. Mostly that's what I find out. So in addressing the problem with how the applications are filed, you can look at it two ways. If, for instance, you get a letter from the zoning hearing board and your neighbor is going to infringe on your property with a fence, you're told to come to a meeting. If you do not come, the assumption is you do not object. So I need to know, and I think we need to know, if we send the letters out and they do not come to the hearing, it's not that they object, they perhaps just don't care. And I think that needs to be identified, that's what that means, and it moves forward.
Well, I think we can certainly cross that bridge in front of the supervisors and in front of the planners. We didn't choose the more difficult path that we've taken. So, you know, the fact that we've approved things against the owner's wishes would lead me to believe that if there's no position taken either way, that should be a defensible position in moving forward.
But that hasn't been a definitive or a declared response.
No,
It is in zoning, is it not? If I don't show up, are you going to keep trying to get me to come in and see if I have an issue with what that person's doing?
But I think you've got two different issues. I think you have, one is directly impacting the property owner. So if no, we're not going to go continue to keep looking, right? I mean, it's all answering your question related to zoning. If the board were to change a zoning rule and it advertised and nobody came in, they would take that as people not responding and they would keep moving forward. I do not know. I'm not going to speak for the planning commission or the board on this one. You know, I know what the planning commission has said. I think you kind of said that. The board, I think, is, in fairness to the board, I think the board is mixed on the position about this. And so But the board is kind of led at this point looking for property owners that are in agreement.
Mhm.
So whether they would define a property owner in agreement that chose not to respond, I don't know that answer. We would have to ask the board.
Because we've had several.
I think if, I think if.
Because I think that's different than what I apologize for cutting you off.
Yep.
I think that's different than having a property owner object.
Yes.
And so I think you're asking for something different. You may have more support from the board. I don't know that. though.
Mhm.
I don't know how to answer that question
No,
because I
wanted to
can't
put it out
answer.
there, yes,
Well,
and
and
I
that's-
just thought you wouldn't know.
And that's where I was going. I think if we've done the work properly, if the documentation is there, and if the notifications have been made and nobody has shown up, I think the board will view that reasonably. They won't take it as a firm yes, but they also won't take it as a firm no. And I think if everything's been done properly, they are willing to consider it fairly.
Well, and then the other part of this is that to allay having to visit every home, and that, not that I mind visiting some of them, and, you know, it's can be a interesting day, but perhaps notification in advance that before we've even put this application in. But there's only, I would say you could start with even 50, 30 to 50, even 30 homeowner historic homes that you could, we could identify. I have the addresses, I can easily get the current owner name, you know, historic homeowner. We could send a notification that they, of the historic nature of that and the possibility of being listed as a historic resource, and questions or meet or for discussion if my name, so, or any of, I don't know how we would do that. We'd have to talk about what we would put as the
If you-
email.
If you did something like this and included something personalized that said, you know, please reach out to me if you have questions, and gave contact information.
But not, it couldn't be this because we haven't put the application in, so it's a.
No, but something
yeah.
like this.
And you can do a
that listed out
postcard
what-
side, yes.
What we're considering and what the implications are, and, you know, you can reach somebody this way.
And Yes, and then having that along with, they don't come because they've had these options. So when you do present and you do get to the point where you're the supervisors and you don't have them signing, you've reached out in another way as well. I think that that's part of it. I don't have, when I fill them out, I don't have another, unless I visited them and they point blank say no, and I don't even, I just move on, if they're that adamant. But there's some that are
If
just,
that reduces your legwork and allows you to push things through in a more consistent basis, I'm not gonna oppose that. I think that's a great idea. I can't speak for these guys, but
What I think I just heard, instead of physically going to properties or to visit these homeowners, you send a mail or an email, whatever.
a mailing.
You mail.
People are not, some of them are not looking at email yet.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
You may not even have their email address.
Now, or a card, a postcard, we've been looking into the cost of a postcard is generally less expensive. It's like 61 cents. And I can do a graphic on the front, which would be a historic home. I think it has a
Yeah.
little more of a personalized feeling.
I don't
if you
think there's
receive
much
that.
of a difference cost-wise, whether it's a letter or a postcard.
No, but I'm thinking of some graphic that's colorful,
Mhm.
that denotes a historic home. I think part of it is, yes, there's not an understanding. There's no understanding of the ordinance. There's fear. The ones I did sit down with, that they perhaps remembered the old ordinance. And so they were weary of this new one. And so rather than read it, they don't go on and read it. I explain things to them and give them the resource to read it. And then again, I've left notes in mailboxes, so they do have the opportunity to contact me, should they want to. That's the first thing. So we get that done. The other is then identifying is if in fact, is that going to be criteria down the road? I mean, and if it is, then I just want to know that up front before I go through this whole legwork. And then get to the end and, well, the person doesn't agree.
And the only way to
And
know
I'd have
that,
to sit down with them.
I think, would be to have conversations with board members and see where they
I
sit.
think so.
Because I don't know how to answer that question without.
No, I know. I mean, it clearly says in the ordinance, nothing about that.
Yeah.
And I know that's.
Yeah, I think that, obviously, if this commission were to make the decision to say that they want to review a property, we're gonna have to notify that homeowner
Mhm.
that you're reviewing, because that's part of the
Mhm.
process. Or if the board of supervisors did, it would be the same process before it came before you. So, I mean, there's gonna be that notification. I think what I hear you saying is basically a notification ahead of time,
Mhm.
basically saying we would like to do this on your behalf.
Yes,
Am I hearing that?
you're hearing, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Correct. I want to give them a
Just-
heads up that, yes, this could happen. It may prompt them to
Yeah.
then contact us.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I wanted to do, to prompt them to do it.
If you
Because they're
can-
the people who
if
wouldn't
you
want
can
it.
knock- If you can knock down some of the easy questions and, make the second approach easier,
Mhm.
then that works.
Right.
Well, I think what I would recommend, and you can choose to do this how you'd like. But I think what I will do is I will look into what the possibilities are of getting a pseudo email box that's like Historic Commission,
To respond
newtowntownship.org,
to.
that people could respond to that versus your personal information. I think you would probably rather that, and then we can then share that information with you as a group.
Mhm.
And so let me just look into that. I
Mhm.
don't know if that costs us any. I know we have some pseudos that cost, and I have some pseudos that don't cost. I need to find out if I can create one that doesn't cost. And if I can get one that's minimal, then it won't matter anyhow, right? So.
If you were able to get one, could you set it up to simply forward to Kathy or to myself or to Bill or
I
whoever?
think it's going to actually have to go to somebody who's on our connected emails today, and then they would have to
They would have
forward
to
it.
manually forward it.
I think so, but let me find out. Because what I think is going to happen is the pseudo, to get the free one, I think we have to have it go to somebody's email. It's like it goes to somebody's email within the organization, and then it can be forwarded
Mhm.
versus a email that has to be checked or set up that just forwards. Let me find out.
Yeah,
I
as
just-
long as the, the elapsed time window stays small,
Yeah.
so that you get back to them while they're still.
I absolutely, totally agree.
So would this be and I hope I have her name right, Claudia, who sent out are you going to attend this meeting?
Could be.
Could it be her or somebody else?
It will be somebody in the office.
Okay.
And most likely it will be two people.
Okay. you
So
got
that if
evidence.
one is out, the other one is.
Yeah.
That's usually how we do things.
Okay.
For those kind of things, we usually have multiple people set up who are monitoring that so that we never have anything that gets missed.
And then they would know and we decide who then they forward it to on this commission.
Yeah, or I would just say, we're gonna forward it to the entire commission, so the
Oh,
entire commission
yeah.
has it.
Okay.
So, I mean, that way, we're not,
Everybody
did we send
sees
it to the right person or didn't send it to the
Mhm.
right
Yeah.
person? It's the commission's email. We will forward it. Everybody knows what's going on. And that's usually how we do things.
Okay.
I mean, like when I get a mail for the supervisors, I forward it to all the supervisors, just so that everybody's aware.
And along with that, if if it's identified that the planning commission will not approve any that the homeowner or property owner doesn't sign, it's still required that they be presented to them? Or can we just,
Actually, that
Say that
raises
again.
the second question of what is planning's role in this?
Well, please understand that when what you're asking, what we're doing is we're changing our zoning ordinance. And because we're changing our zoning ordinance, the municipal planning code of the state of Pennsylvania says that it has to be reviewed by the local planning commission and the county planning commission. And so they're both reviewed by both prior to action of the Board of Supervisors. When it goes to the Board of Supervisors, we send it to the Board of Supervisors the first time, and they say, send it to the planning commissions and advertise for the hearing. So that's the first action once you guys get it, once you guys have approved it to go forward. So they have to authorize us doing that because there's a cost to advertise. And so we send it to the two planning commissions, and because it's a zoning change. And so once we send it to the two planning commissions and we get the response back, then we can schedule a hearing, and we have to do advertising for that hearing because there's a requirement that anytime you change your zoning code, that you have a hearing and you have to advertise for that hearing. And so we would advertise for that hearing. And then you have the hearing by the Board of Supervisors.
Does the state code that requires it to be reviewed by planning require it to be reviewed by the entire commission? Or could it be reviewed by, a rotating 1 or 2 person team that?
Well, it has to be a quorum of the commission. Because just like,
Well,
just like
I know they
you-
couldn't vote on it unless they have a quorum, but does reviewing actually require voting?
if it's going to be, their review is to give a recommendation to the board. That requires a vote.
Okay, it just seems like it just seems like a lot of time is being expended, which if it's legally required is fine, but if it's not, it's a lot of time.
Well, I would say that it was purposely set up to follow the state code. And the ordinance that was passed by the township actually lays that out in addition to what the state code says. So we have 2 documents that we're following and following them based on what this,
I'm just curious, because I don't necessarily see it working this way in other townships. And maybe we're just more cautious.
Well, I think I think the question that I would have is, are they adding properties to a historic area? Or are they, because it's a little different in Newtown in that we don't have an historic
Well,
district.
but neither do any of the townships around us. And they, for the most part, dragged everything in at the beginning of their,
Well, but the board chose not to for
I
a
know.
reason.
I get that.
So, but now this is how we have to go through the process if we're gonna do it.
And it is time consuming.
Is there a way to change that process? Just, does it have to start at the board to change it? Or we're pushing up this way, but are we recommending and then they would be approving, or is it? I don't know if we'd have any houses in it
With the
if you.
planning, do they have to send out notification at the planning commission meeting?
We do not send out notification at the planning commission.
So how would the homeowner know to have come and object? They never do, that's why I was.
Well, it's
Explain why.
it's a review step, so it doesn't necessarily
So-
require.
It's a similar piece to like a land development. I mean, obviously the developer wants
Right.
to know and wants to be
Right.
there. I mean, so far, the ones that you're doing, you've had at least the more recent ones, your homeowner has been in agreement. Right. And so therefore, they're the ones whose application is moving forward.
Right.
But the actual notification of, so we're not going back and doing it again. They've already been noted. They're basically saying, I want to go through the process. And so we're moving through the
And even in
process.
the ones that didn't, it just went the same way. It went through planning the same way, and they were the ones that they denied.
yeah.
Recommended not, but they got
Yeah.
put on,
Yeah,
so that in the end, so, yeah, I thought, because no one ever shows up to object throughout this whole process on the ones so far that have not been signed, except several in the very beginning.
I was gonna say, those in the very
And we didn't move
beginning,
forward with them, even though we completed the process here.
yeah.
And I don't know, we didn't take those to.
I mean,
planning.
we have moved forward with ones that were strenuously objected against.
Right,
That's
well,
separate.
we just opted for the easier ones because, it's
We've done both.
easier.
Easier is what we've been doing recently. But,
Well, yeah, but most of the time, yeah, it's me doing them and me, I have to go up before them and I know when I present them, whether it's gonna be easy or not. So to make my life easier, I've been choosing people who are easy to access,
mhm.
willing to sign. Only because I know it's an exercise in futility. So
But-
if I'm doing the other, I would rather just say, look, I got 4 here. They didn't sign, but they meet all the criteria, but if it has to be recorded, I know you're gonna say no, just vote no now. And call it a night. I don't want to have to present anything like.
Well, but I
except to
think
say that because they have the information in front of them, they know
Yeah.
if they know the homeowner didn't sign it, they just won't even want to hear it.
Yeah, but I think that what you have to remember is their role, I get it. I mean, I know that the thing is, but their role is to look at it and say, does it make sense? And that's their role. And,
Correct. And I wish
but
they
if
would
you
that.
don't do, like, I think the key is on a property, to have enough information as to why that property truly is historic, what it is, what is it about the architecture? Not just that the architecture is historic, but what is it about the architecture that makes it historic? What is it about who lived there that makes it historic? That versus just saying it hits number 1, it hits number 7, and it hits number 9. I know there's 10, right? So, but why does number 1?
And that's what we do. We do
I-
that
I-
with
I
not,
think, let me just finish, please. I think that's been done here. I don't always know that I feel like that presentation is what happens at the planning commission. And so I think, I'm just telling you what I see. I think that, sometimes I think it's happened, but I don't think always, and I think that leans to the questions that go in that.
not at all, because everyone that has been approved is the homeowner. I wish they would ask the historic questions. They never do. I could put your house through if you signed for it. And that's the way I feel. I feel like I could make an argument and I could put your home at 75 years old and this, and it meets this and this. I could do that because no one ever questions the history at all. I tell it, but they don't. Those questions are never about that. So everyone went through as long as the homeowner signed it. So, and I would tell all about them. The ones that were difficult, I did give a lengthy historic content, but it made no difference. They still, because, well, the property owner, the new property owners didn't want to do it. And I would agree if that was not true, but that is the way that's the way I talk to it. I laughingly say it sometimes because I'm like, goodness gracious, I wish somebody would come in and oppose it based on the history. And one did, DePatan, and I'll give him credit for that.
Yeah.
So that is what it's like when someone does question the history, they bring a historian. And she counters basically some of the history that we have. And that is what you should do. It's not that history. It's not that relevant. Who built it? When was it built? Not one question ever about, can you tell us a little anecdote? So you were there and I did. And I just happen to know all the anecdotal
Yeah,
stories.
my impression is that we're not being asked to tell the story of the building. We're being asked to read what is 1, 3, and 5. And personally, I think reading the exact list of what 1, 3, and 5 is isn't necessarily helpful, but that's what we're being asked to do, rather than why is this house important?
Well, I think it's, you're saying, I think what you should be saying is, we believe it meets criteria number 5, which is X. And the reason why we believe it meets criteria number 5 is ABC. And so that's what should be the presentation, particularly when we get to the hearing, because that becomes the document that if somebody wants to challenge the decision of the board, if we haven't, if a case hasn't been made for why it's truly historic, then it would be harder if we have to go to the Court of Common Pleas to defend a position on it, if that makes sense.
I get that. And that is sort of what I was doing at the first hearing that I did.
Mhm.
And I was essentially told to read the definition of number 1 and the definition of number 3 and the definition of number 5, which I can do. But it seems like it would be more important to say, really, what is the history of this house and why do we think it's important?
Yeah,
And which we did on, especially the contentious ones.
yeah.
You have to do it on those because the owner did not sign off it. So let me explain to you why it meets criteria and that's not part of it. Either it's historic or it's not. It's not who owns it and do they agree? But
And to Kathy's point, at planning,
That's the
that
problem.
doesn't seem to necessarily matter.
Yeah.
It seems to matter more,
at the supervisor's level.
did the homeowner say yes?
Oh, that, yes, I know. And so I don't see,
And I don't think that's really why we exist as a commission. All right. Is there other things we want to discuss in 7.1?
I
Or-
think
or
I'll
fuck this out.
move on with the letter. That'll work for something up front.
7.2, discussion and possible action of how the information on the Township Historic Preservation Mission will be entered into the strategic plan.
That's just a question. So when it's time to enter that portion, how will that be determined? What information will be gathered and who will be asked to incorporate it in? How do you do that?
So all information that gets into the historic plan is going to go through our consultants.
Right,
And it's part of the public meetings, it's part of focus groups, it's part of the surveys. It's all of those things will determine how that information gets put in. I'm not,
I mean, what information? Are they going to refer to the people who know the history for the historic part of it? Like for the historic, it could be our historian or the Historic Society or are they going to refer to those people or is a representative from the history that should be asked to write what the plan is, but how many years is this strategic?
10 years.
What the goals are in the historic
Well, I
preservation.
think that'll
historic
come from what the
preservation.
public comments are. So if the public, so let's, and I'm going to say this, and this is not saying this is where people are, okay?
Mhm.
But if, let's say through the process of the survey, people say that the history of the township is important, but it's kind of just middle of the road
Mhm.
in importance. It probably will have less goals and less focus on historic pieces than if the people of the township say, well, our history is very important. The going back, and preserving our history is very important and maintaining historic structures is important and, those kind of things. That will most likely determine how goals are written. It will come from what's commented about in the public meetings that we have. It'll come from what's commented about from those on focus groups and for those on the survey.
Well, were you gonna say something?
Yeah.
Will these consultants, who are building the 10-year strategic plan, have access to the records of this commission to do whatever digging they need to dig, or
I mean, they'll have access to anything they ask to, we'll provide it to them. But their focus is going to be on the public process that we go through in getting information. So, and Bill, you served on the last strategic plan
Right.
group,
Yep.
and you know how important that was
Yep.
in the survey getting out, how important that was when we did focus groups.
Yep.
Yeah, how, when we did public meetings, gathering information, all of that was how we made decisions about those things. And so it will be the same for the comp plan and the strategic plan this time.
Do you anticipate that, I'll just leave it at the high level, that this commission will be referenced in the strategic plan? Maybe not details, but if somebody follows the strategic plan, hey, go check with the records of the commission or something, so they know that we exist and we have all these records.
I would be surprised if it wasn't, I mean, only, like I said, if the public's comment related to the historic issues of the township were to come back as middle of the road or less, my guess is less will be stated about it than if they come back as more.
Yeah, I don't think we'll compete with traffic issues. I think we're below that level.
Well, then that's my point. Like, I don't know that, like,
Yeah.
Yeah, like, if it's important. Here's what I hope, we're in the process. Right now, we have about 300 surveys that have been done. If you'll remember when we did ours last time, I think we were up over 1,500 by the time we got done.
Yep.
We're a long way from where I think we need to be in order to have a really good evaluation of what the public thinks at this point. And so my hope is that we will actually do a few more incentives to get people to do that over the next 6 months to make sure that we get a lot more public comment. And then my comment to you would be if the topics that are important to you, you don't think are going to potentially be addressed as a commission, I would encourage you to be encouraging people to take the survey and be commenting about the historic piece of the historic importance in our township. I mean, obviously, we think it's important. The township has purchased another historic property in town, you know, so, but it's not, I think that we need to continue to move in that direction. So, I'm not sure I'm answering your question, but that's what I think is I think it's going to be based on what the public input is. And so if the public input comes back and it's not strong, I would think there would be less historic goals than if the public input is strong. If that makes sense.
Was it in the last? Oh,
It was in both the last strategic plan and the last comp plan, so I can't imagine that it's not going to be there, but but it is based on what's in the community. It's based on where the public is today and what the drive is. And you know, the board does have a right to say, yeah, we're not going in that direction, but it is important.
I think so.
Does that make sense? I
Yes.
mean, I hope that answers. I don't think there's something that you all would write that it would get turned in that would end up being the basis.
Oh,
think
no, no,
they-
no, no, I didn't mean that. I just meant where were they getting the information that already is occurring in the township.
Yeah,
Yeah, but that would have to be included in any kind of questions. And it's open-ended, because when I take it, you know, it's,
Yeah.
you just have topics to pick which ones do you
Right.
think, yeah.
okay.
Yep.
On to 7.3, or do you have anything else on this one?
No.
All right, 7.3, discussion and possible action of a public-private nonprofit partnership for historic sites.
We there a way to, we can just table that?
You want,
That was based on, yes, and
do you want to hold it over for next month, or do you want to just
let me
call it?
just look into, that was based on request by Chadsford Township. And we don't really, I don't have any specific information on, partnerships with the township. And I know in our township, they own the buildings, and then, the Historical Society is a nonprofit, is steward, kind of administers them. And they have that going on, so they requested information about that. And, I don't think that at this point, they have a property that they own. And so they wanted success or not from all the townships that do it. Which, us, and I thought, well, so giving it more thought, I think it's more, gonna be more of just a vague kind of thing that I'll talk from a different viewpoint.
All right, so we're just tabling
So
it.
let's just table that,
Are we
yes.
just tabling it entirely and?
Yes,
And not
just
putting,
table it. It's too
So-
late. When she asked for the agenda, I have to do, oh, this is what I'm working on right now. So when it's too early, but then after I sit on it a week, I go, well, I thought, let's
Okay.
cross that out.
then
yeah,
let's
we're good.
move to
I
old.
just because you're tabling it, it should be a motion to table
Oh, okay.
and then a pass.
Are we,
vote.
are we motioning to table
I
and,
motion
and
that we
not put it
table that.
on a future
And do
agenda?
not at this time put it on a future. Yes.
Put it on or don't put
Actually,
it on?
then I'm
No.
gonna, actually, if you're doing that, then I would make have you change that, just have it as a motion to remove the
Remove
agenda item. And then if everybody agrees, we'll remove it and we'll take it off. Tabling would actually
It means
cause
you're
it,
gonna do it
it
again.
means I would put it on the next agenda item for you
No,
and you
let's
would
remove
have
it.
to vote to take it out of
Would you like
table.
to make the motion
I make the
to?
motion that we remove, item 7.3 from the agenda.
I will second that motion. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right. Removed. So now let's move on to old business. Discussion and possible action of our current budget, what money is currently available, until what date to use it, and whether this money could be used for purchase and installation of plaques for homes designated as class 2 who are requesting them. Is
By
it-
designating.
Is this your-
They
is this your-
have to, we wouldn't have one.
Is this your item, Kathy?
Without them, there'd be no agenda, yes. This, based on the ones that are only voted and passed by the supervisors.
I believe our budget is currently based upon putting in new applications, some printing and some events.
And do we ever know what's left over, or is there an itemization, or is there a way to know?
I don't know that it's really a leftover. I think it's just that we requested a base budget, which I think Steve did for us this year
Right.
because we didn't even necessarily know.
Is this a line item in the township budget? Is it buried in other numbers or where?
Well, there is a line item. I'll have to go back and look specifically. I mean, we put some money in mostly, I put money in two different areas for this. I put one set of monies in to cover advertising for the hearings, for you to do that. And so I did that. And then I put some monies in, we put some monies in for some actions that you would have that, you know, you'd ask to print some stuff and things like that. That I'll have to look to see where I actually put, I may have just put that in printing, and for under the township portion, and I just added historic needed, you know, $300 or $400 or $500 or whatever it was. And so I'll have to look at that. I think what we would need to know, even if you were going to use it differently, even if it was a specific line item but you were going to use it differently, we'd have to go back to the board because I told them how we were going to use that money and
Okay.
it's different. So that would be step one. And step two, I think would be them approving it. You know, step one, taking it back and them approving it. But then step two, if answering your question, typically we have to have everything done and in-house. And when I say that is, so if you were gonna purchase signs for these houses, they would have to be delivered to us prior to December 31st to be in this year's
This year.
budget, even if we didn't put them up. Like, we would have to
Right.
have possession of them,
Okay.
normally. But we can look at that, but typically the auditor wants to see us have our hands on the material, whether it's installed or not is a different piece.
So would the wiser way to go be to, if we want to do this, look at it for next year's budget rather than trying to muck around with this year's budget?
Do you have an idea of what you think cost, what you're looking at and how much money you're looking at?
I would say, not counting because you did the installation, it's probably 200 to 300.
Per house?
Yes, for those metal signs that you see, trying to
Yeah.
duplicate them is the question. If not, we make a different one, but yes, that's, forecast. So,
Why don't-
because they last forever, so that's the ones that are currently there, that's about
Why don't
price,
we-
but
why
at
don't
this
we- why
point,
don't-
there's only 3 for sure that are requesting, that got voted
I
in.
got you.
Yes,
So this would
I'm not,
only be,
I'm not offering them to everybody who has one. Yeah,
Okay.
it's just whoever got voted in by the supervisors into our ordinance or our
Okay.
inventory. Because it's kind of more official that happened.
got you.
Yes, so,
That raises a related question. Since we got caught by surprise last year and you had to kind of bail us out on the budget, when do we anticipate the budget being due this year and when should we start on it?
Basically, I mean, it's already October, so, yeah, anything that you're looking at for next year, we would probably need by, for sure, November, your November meeting, so.
All right.
if it's different-
Is there any training available on how we're budgeting now? Because my understanding is what I did 2 years ago is not what we're doing now.
Yeah, I actually am not 100% sure. That's part of the reason why we're kind of still getting things together. With the new finance director, I'm not sure how he would like that. I'll meet with him Thursday, and I'll try to get that out to everybody.
Well, why don't we put that on next month's agenda to talk about this again? Or to talk about it, period?
Yeah.
So that we don't completely, miss the boat again this year. Uh, 8.2. Discussion and possible action regarding the Pennsylvania Byways Program using the Phoenixville Strategic Plans model as a guide.
okay, well, now that you explained, obviously they had that as a question in theirs, because I read theirs. Something about scenic byways would have to have been included in the questionnaire. They have multiple roads throughout, because I know you're familiar with Phoenixville. And they clearly state that that is a goal of theirs. I had written, I forget the gentleman's name, when I read it, because I said, well, is this a wish list or is this kind of what you'd hope to do? Because there's a process, unless you just make resolutions, which resolution to name, say, Gradyville from here to here. When there's historic homes included, it's a historic scenic byway. So you can do pieces of ground without making an ordinance change, just for the designation. And that gets put into as part of the strategic plan. But now, and when you explain that, if that's not anywhere even as a question, it would never be even entered as a discussion.
Probably not.
Yeah, and so that's why they must have had it in theirs. I don't know, because they have a whole several paragraphs about it.
It's in their strategic plan or their comp plan?
But it was their strategic, I think.
Okay,
But I mean, and tell me how they differ.
so the reason I'm asking that is I was at Phoenixville for 10 years and we never had a strategic plan.
Okay. So
Okay.
it's probably what you're.
So that's why I was I was like, I'm pretty impressed.
Hey, I don't know, you're right.
So I would look to see which one it was, but
I have it.
most municipalities have a comp plan.
Yes, okay. I might have
Mm.
it. Can't remember.
Fewer have strategic plans. and fewer have the strategic plan that's tied to their comp plan.
Okay,
So, but saying that, particularly in Pennsylvania, I should say that, you know, you got 2,600 municipalities. There's a requirement for a comp plan by the state. Most municipalities, if they get that done, they feel like they're doing good.
okay.
And it's a requirement every 10 years.
Did you know Ed Thurkoff?
I-
Okay, he would be the planner, planning consultant for the Phoenixville Regional Planning Committee.
Oh,
So,
he's with the Regional Planning Committee. Ah, so that's actually broader than Phoenix.
yes, I'm sure,
Yeah.
because it's.
Because that involves, I
Phoenixville,
think, Schuylkill and I forget all-
Probably, yeah, and they
all
had
the
some
different-
that ran in Phoenixville as well.
Yeah.
But anyway, I was just had read through it and thought the wording, it wasn't as. That was just a guide, and then I looked up resolutions, as opposed to changing something, can you make a resolution naming something? And
Yeah, I
then
think
just-
that if-
It's kind of like you're just telling people this is a scenic,
Yeah, I
but you're
think,
not
I mean, like,
making rules,
if you're not making rules by how they're governed,
yeah.
you know, I think the question becomes the twofold question that I would have. One is, if you're doing it on a non-state road, then I think it's just our board takes action and it would pass the resolution if that's what you propose, if they wanted to do so. If it's a state road, I think we would have to see whether or not, I don't know whether there's a requirement based on a state road.
Right, even
Um,
though you're not changing. and
Well,
making
I
any
mean, like,
rules
I don't
to
know
it.
what I don't know what the
lot of
resolution
them-
does, like,
Yeah.
you know, does it, you know, as long as all it is just saying that it's that, you
It
know,
doesn't have any force
if it
behind it,
doesn't have any force behind it, I don't know the state would care. But
but it does have something, and I know what you're saying.
yeah, if
Because when
it changes,
I read
like
it.
I've read what a scenic highway designation for the state of Pennsylvania
yeah.
gives. There's a lot of restrictions
Yeah.
then based on that.
Right.
There's no way I think our board can act on a state road and put those restrictions on,
Correct.
because it's not our road to
Right.
do that. That being said, if it's just a resolution that says we're doing that, I'm not sure what the purpose is, other than just to say it's a pretty road to drive down with some historic value because there's some historic homes on it, you know, so.
Right, it's kind of like the same thing of calling it the heritage tree on the person's property, and like,
Yeah.
oh, now I gotta cut it down, it makes them
Yeah.
think twice.
Yeah,
That's, I think, what it is, it's more like you raise awareness that people realize.
Yeah.
And Goshen is, because it has multiple historic buildings on it
Yeah.
and resources,
but
so
I think that's a hard one because it's state road.
I know.
So that's why I'm saying I'm not sure. I'm not sure that our board could take an action to restrict what was to happen on
They
a state
couldn't.
road within our township.
No, they couldn't, but they could make maybe a resolution where you just identify it as, this is a historic scenic byway, starting at the tavern, or starting actually further.
Yeah.
Out where there's all these historic homes that line it all the way up to the bridge, actually. Willistown already wants to do that, I don't, because of their continued, I mean,
Mm.
it's gorgeous there. So, I can find all that out, you can't make changes on the state roads way
Yeah.
too much.
Well, that's why I'm like, I just don't know.
And we can't buy up all the land like Willistown did. They put it all in conservation easements,
Right,
so that's protected. So yeah, that's what they do. But you can identify it, and that does lead to calling it that. Just and everybody says it when they drive through it anyway.
Mm.
So, I think that's what I was gonna pursue with, just the resolution.
I think it would be wise to have a conversation or two with a couple board members,
Mhm.
just to see, like,
Have a little list,
just to see if it's an appetite
yes.
that they're interested in.
Is there some type of allocation that you can apply for that and receive funding, like some of the the streets and the bird foundations? Didn't Paul Selgson at one point?
Yeah, but I don't know that it's funded.
Yeah,
Yeah, for
Like
what?
the Bird Town
Yeah, that,
type designation. That's not a
not a
funded
fund,
designation.
okay. Yeah, I was just curious.
Yeah.
So it's not a, it's just a designation. It's not a funded situation.
No, it would be just the designation
Okay.
and then all the historic places along it.
Mhm.
Kind of, actually, the tavern would be a center part of that
Okay.
if you're doing Goshen Road. So I mean, it kind of fits into that whole park
Mm.
kind of thing.
Mhm.
Because really, that's a whole nother thing. It's, you know, that technically
Is it
is a sort of park.
is
Hmm?
is it an interactive map someplace online that people, they want to drive down those roads?
No,
they can
that's,
do that?
hey, that's all could be done.
Okay.
Yeah, you can do all those things, as long as you're not forcing or changing rules or
Mhm.
laws or things about it. The more you can raise awareness to the,
Yeah, I
beauty
think
of
we'd
it-
have to see whether we could use certain terms
Mhm.
because they may be tied to programs. So
right,
like America 250 is actually a trademark. And so you can't use America 250 as part of your advertising unless you get their agreement to do that. And so you have to be very careful
Mhm.
on those kind of things. And it may be a very similar, if you say it's like this is part of the Pennsylvania's
that's Newtown, you would do it Newtown Square scenic.
Yeah.
Historic byway.
Yeah, so we just have to
And
be
Grubbs
careful.
Mill is one, I saw that sign and I don't know how they did it. Grubbs Mill Road. You go out Goshen and it's kind of one of those that's up here in Goshen and then back here when you go on the other side.
Mhm.
And from Goshen to Westchester Pike. On Grubbs Mill goes out to 926. 926 would be the opposite side. And they have that on there. And I know they didn't get any, I don't think they have any
Yeah,
ordinance change or anything. They just designated it. So, yeah, and yes, you would call it something totally local.
okay.
That was the idea. But,
Yeah, again,
but the other two roads, you're right, they could do that if they want to say Gradyville, Bishop Hollow.
actually, they're both state roads as well.
Both of them?
Oh, yeah.
Gradyville?
Well, depends on where on Gradyville.
Between, Bishop Hollow, I guess Providence, up,
Yeah,
goes
that's
all the way
that-
to Marble.
well, from
Media
Bishop
Line-
Hollow,
Media Line
Bishop
Road.
Hollow from Bishop Hollow to up to Providence Road,
Mhm.
that's state. From Bishop Hollow to 252 is township, and from 252 to into Marple, that's state.
Okay,
Is Media Line Road state also?
Media Line Road's a state road also.
I only know that because I crossed over when they were painting the roads. I turned onto it and got on my new car a few years ago, paint all over it. They forgot to put the
Cones out.
the cones out, yeah. So, that I found that out that day.
well, then I guess it could be, just make it as benign as possible.
Yeah, I mean, that's,
Goshen is the real main one at this point because that is in the most historic part
Yeah.
of Newtown. Those roads do also, they're the roads that have all the historic comes on
Mhm.
them, all three of them.
yeah, and it makes sense because it makes sense that those are state roads because they've been around a long time.
Long time.
Yeah.
Okay, that was all I need to know.
Good on that one.
Yes.
All righty. Public comment? Not today.
Think so.
Art, do we want to quickly discuss what we might want to add to next month's agenda? Other than budgeting?
No, I was gonna say that's the only thing I have is the budget.
Tiffany's
If
talking.
not, I'm going to motion that we
Wait.
adjourn.
Is that Tiffany?
What?
Tiffany just said that the budget. Tiffany just said the budget's what's new this thing.
I did not hear.
The only thing I have for our next meeting from what we talked about is the budget. Unless anybody recalls anything else.
Anything new that people want? Oh, Donna, remember what I had written you about? Is there a way
Yes.
to do that in the next month?
Yeah, I think so. Will we discuss it?
Well, for new business, yeah,
Yeah,
for next,
okay.
for the agenda, yeah.
So, we're just looking to see if there would be any type of incentives, a variety of incentives to possibly join, have people sign up and, be a historic property in the township. So whether it's the sign, some other types of incentives, marketing, and we're just looking at some different things that are done throughout the country. That's it.
And is there a way to check, has it affected real estate values of people who have historic, because multiple have sold?
Yeah.
That's what, or are going for sale, and that was another thing, maybe there's some way to,
It hasn't
Look
been
them all
my
up?
experience as a realtor for 20 years that it affects value. Only if the houses have, some have very short ceilings, low ceilings. Those may sell for a little less just because of the interior accommodations there. But overall, it hasn't been my experience, but there's some information that I've been looking up to share with you. on
if it's
that.
a designated historic
Mhm.
resource,
Yeah.
that's,
It
yes,
would- I
that's
think-
the fear would be, does it affect their property value to be designated a historic
Mhm.
resource in the township and be under the ordinance? And then also, what are the incentives?
Mhm.
What can be offered? Because they're always like, well, what's in it for me? What's the
Mhm.
point?
Mhm.
You know, the people who love their home and don't want to have something happen to it, they're easy.
Mhm.
You know, they want that. But they want more perks.
Mhm.
Okay,
All right,
so that's two things.
anything else we need to go over? Then I'm gonna motion that we adjourn the meeting. I get a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Well, then we are done for today.
You guys are real quick on the seconds. I almost had two. I said two.